We need to know what happened in the room after she invited that person inside. The answer is in that knowledge.
What happened after that? Most likely, the person Maizono summoned came after her. What's this? We've stumbled upon the culprit. The person summoned by that note is the culprit.
We don't know who that is, that's the whole problem.
Maizono and the culprit first had some sort of a struggle in the room, yes? By any chance, could the answer to that question lie in the struggle they had there?
Yes, precisely.
So, we've just got to figure out what happened during the struggle, right?
That reminds me, there was a practice sword at the scene. Was that used during the struggle?
Oh yeah. What's up with that?
That's something I brought back for self-defense at Maizono's suggestion. I'm sure that's what the culprit used to break Maizono's right wrist.
That practice sword was used to break Maizono's wrist. How the hell can you know that?
The practice sword was used to break Maizono's wrist. The evidence for that is where the bone was broken. It couldn't be anything else. See for yourself by looking at Maizono's broken right wrist. You see where her right wrist is swollen? There's something shiny there.
Is that gold?
Yeah, it's gold leaf from the practice sword. Just barely touch the gold leaf and it comes right off. And that's what's on Maizono's wrist.
Aha! She received a blow to the wrist from that practice sword.
I see. I can feel the truth drawing nearer.
Alright! Let's exercise this mystery, dude! Let's expose every last detail of what happened there!
What happened in that room? To reach the truth behind Maizono's death, we first need to reveal that.
When the struggle began in that room, the culprit drew the practice sword, and with it, dealt the first strike. The practice sword preemptive strike, dude!
Not preemptive enough! No, it's not possible the first strike was with that practice sword.
What? Why not?
Because of the damage to the practice sword scabbard. See? There are slash marks, like it was cut with a blade.
A blade? You mean the knife? The knife was the only blade at the crime scene.
This ain't word association. Explain things more clearly.
If the first strike was with the practice sword, then it doesn't follow for the scabbard to be damaged. I mean, if you're attacking someone with a practice sword, wouldn't you normally draw the blade?
Leave the scabbard on and it's just heavy and in the way. Just one big handicap.
And why be the scabbard damaged?
What if, for example, they were suddenly attacked with a knife and took the sword for defense? There wouldn't be time to draw the blade from the scabbard.
In other words, the practice sword was first used in defense against the knife.
Which in turn means the first one to strike was the one who held the knife.
I've got it! This is what happened. As soon as the culprit entered that room, he discovered the hidden knife. And using that knife, suddenly attacked Maizono! She scrambled to fight back with the practice sword, but even that was taken from her. Then, after breaking her wrist with the blow from the practice sword, he took the knife, and
No, it's not likely Maizono fought back with the practice sword.
Huh? Why the hell not?
Maizono didn't touch the practice sword. A particular part of her body makes that obvious.
Some part of Maizono's body that shows she didn't use the practice sword. The area that would have to make contact with the practice sword if you were to use it. You're talking about Maizono's palms, right? Maizono's hands were clean, so it's hard to believe she held a practice sword.
How can you tell that just by looking at her hands?
I mentioned it before, but the practice sword's gold leaf comes off at just the slightest touch. A significant portion of the gilding on the practice sword's hilt has been rubbed off. That's almost certainly because the gold leaf rubbed off on the hand of whoever used it. So if Maizono had used the practice sword, it doesn't make sense for her hands to be clean.
Couldn't she have just washed her hands when she fled into the shower?
No, she couldn't have.
Well, why can you deny that? Is it because I'm ugly?
No, that's not what I'm saying! Some evidence that Maizono didn't wash gold leaf off of her hand in the shower. It's clearly defined in the school rules. Something to do with the showers during nighttime. According to the Monokuma file, Maizono died at 1:30 a.m. In other words, nighttime. Water doesn't flow to the showers during the nighttime, right?
I had no idea. I've never taken a shower before.
Oh, wow.
You're the same way, aren't you? You smell like a channeled apple snail.
Is that a compliment? Your criticism?
She's criticizing you. So pretty freaking obviously.
Anyway, she didn't touch the practice sword. And that means it was the culprit who used the practice sword. Wait, in which case, the person who slashed the practice sword scabbard with the knife was...
The person who slashed the scabbard would have had to be the person who didn't have the practice sword. Maizono? She had the knife.
But as I recall, the person who attacked first...
The one with the knife struck first, and the practice sword was used to defend against that.
Ergo, the one who struck first
was Maizono?
Do you understand now? That she wasn't simply a victim.
She was far from just a victim. It seems like she was intending to commit murder herself. She took the knife from the kitchen, then invited the culprit to the room in which she was staying. On top of that, if she was the one who struck first with the knife...
Indeed. Those are the actions of a perpetrator.
Now that I think about it, it was Maizono who proposed she and Naegi exchange rooms, was it not? Perhaps she proposed the room exchange, so she could frame Naegi for her own crime.
Maizono would do that to me?
However, using that line of thought also takes care of the nameplate swap. She wanted to lure her target to Naegi's room, where she was staying. So by committing murder in that room, she could direct suspicion at Naegi. And in order to do that, she needed to keep the room exchange hidden from her target. If her target found out about the exchange, it would have most definitely raised a red flag.
And that's why she swapped the nameplates?
Be that as it may, the plan is still far too dangerous, nay? Even if she successfully eliminated her target, Master Makoto Naegi could reveal the exchange.
I don't buy it. I don't think soft-hearted Naegi could throw Maizono to the wolves. Maizono probably selected Naegi to exchange rooms with for that exact same reason.
Plus, she's the super-duper high school idol between plain Naegi and famed idol Maizono. Whose word would you normally believe?
Then that was also part of her plan?
Seriously?
And yet, her plan still ended in failure. When she was attacked with a knife, she was countered by the practice sword. And then, her right wrist was broken, and she dropped the knife.
Then she was killed by the person who was supposed to be her target.
Hold on a second! That's not right! Because...
Hey! Haven't we drifted a little off topic? What do you think this is? A soap opera? Come on! Hurry up and decide who's the villain! Time's up! Punishment for everyone! Wouldn't it just suck if that happened?
Yeah, dude. We gotta find the culprit first.
Naegi, right now you must focus on solving the mysteries.
You're telling me to find the culprit, but what do you expect me to do? There aren't any more clues left.
How are we supposed to pick a culprit when we're all out of clues?
Wait, there is something! Actually, there's still one clue left. Maizono's dying message.
Dining... what now?
A dying message. It was on the wall behind her back. She wrote the numbers 11037 in blood. This must be a hint related to the culprit.
Before we move forward, I'd just like to be sure. Did Maizono actually write that message in the first place?
There's no doubt Maizono wrote that message. The evidence for that is... the reason Maizono's left pointer finger had blood on it has to be because she used that finger to write her dying message.
Her right wrist would have been broken from the previous struggle, so she used her left hand.
Okay, so we know it was Maizono who wrote it. But what does 11037 mean?
Wouldn't that one chick be able to help if it's about numbers? The programmer or whatever.
I have no idea. No matter what I try, I can't find any meaning in that string of numbers.
Of course not. That's because they're not numbers.
Oh-ho, it seems.
Huh? What is it?
If you consider that these might not be numbers, doesn't the 11 actually look like a letter?
He's right! The line in the middle is really thin, so it looks like the number 11. But it could also be N.
Whoa, you said something useful for once.
My little gray cells are in fine working order.
Though even if we assume the first letter is N, N037 still has no apparent meaning.
Crap. I have no idea.
Rotate it clockwise 180 degrees.
Huh? Rotate it? I get it. Is it possible she wrote... That's right. Maizono wrote the culprit's name.
What? She skipped the clues and went straight for the culprit's name?
Who? Whose name is it?
The culprit named in Maizono's dying message. If I rotate the message 180 degrees, I should be able to see it. The key to this mystery is in the clockwise rotation. If you rotate the dying message clockwise by 180 degrees, you can see the letters L-E-O-N. Leon. That's Kawada's name!
What? What are you talking about? It's just a coincidence. It's just a coincidence it looks like that. An accidental byproduct.
No, it's not just coincidence. Maizono wrote the message behind her back while slumped against the wall. Quite likely, she moved only her hand behind her back, writing the message in that position. Because she wrote the message in that position, when you look at it head-on, it appears rotated 180 degrees. You can try that yourself. Write a message in that position and the letters will be inverted.
You're just grasping at straws here, man. I'm the culprit! Spit out the first thing that comes to mind, why don't you?
If you're not the culprit, then why did you attempt to dispose of the evidence?
Huh?
Naegi, you know too, don't you? The evidence Oowada tried to destroy?
The evidence Oowada tried to destroy. It's that, isn't it? The thing I found on the floor in front of the trash room's incinerator. You're talking about the burnt dress shirt on the floor in front of the incinerator, right?
Most likely, when the culprit stabbed Maizono, the blood splatters stained his shirt. To dispose of the bloodied dress shirt, he threw it into the incinerator.
And accidentally left behind that burnt fragment.
I'm certain the culprit didn't notice either. If he had, he would be much more frantic. Isn't that right, Oowada?
What?
But can we deem Leon Oowada the culprit by that shirt alone?
Aside from Oowada, quite a few people here wear dress shirts with white cuffs.
Yeah, I'm not the only one who wears a dress shirt. There's no way you can tell whose shirt that is just from the burnt cuff.
No. Even if we can't infer it from the item itself, there are other details we can use.
It seems like you've finally discovered the answers to all the mysteries.
Yeah, for the most part. The burnt fragment of the dress shirt the culprit failed to destroy. In order to determine who the culprit is, we need to focus on... If we focus on how the shirt was disposed of, we should be able to determine a culprit.
Oh yeah? I see. I've got it all figured out. You can't get near the incinerator if you can't unlock the trash room's shutters. So there's no way I can switch the incinerator on. And the one who has the key to the trash room is the janitor. Which means the janitor is the killer.
Yeah!
No, that's not true. There's a way for someone other than the janitor to turn the incinerator on. And it's that method that points to Oowada being the culprit!
The key to the trash room is held by the janitor.
In other words, the only person who could get near the incinerator was the janitor.
You can't destroy evidence if you can't get near the incinerator.
You're a liar, Oowada! Hold on! It was still possible to dispose of evidence even if you weren't the janitor.
But without opening the shutters, one is unable to light the incinerator's flame, are they not?
No, it's still possible. If you use this.
It's busted, but it looks like a glass ball.
Well, it was supposed to be a crystal ball.
By using this? How would you use it?
The culprit did something with this glass ball. The culprit threw this glass ball through the space in the shutters at the incinerator's switch. Doing so, he was able to switch the incinerator's fire.
He threw it through the shutters?
You said so yourself, Yamada.
What is this? The incinerator's flame has been left alight? How strange! Last time I was here, I made quite certain the flame had been extinguished. Is this a fairy's doing?
The incinerator was turned on without Yamada, who had the key, knowing. That's because the culprit pressed the incinerator's switch without opening the shutters. Having lit the incinerator's flame, he balled up the dress shirt and threw it in.
Hey, what you saying, man?
The condition of the room after the disposal tells us the culprit didn't open the shutters. The broken glass ball, the incinerator being left on, the burnt fragment of cloth. If the janitor were the killer, he would have been more careful when he got rid of the evidence.
Hey! I said wait!
But the incinerator's more than 10 meters away from the shutters, isn't it? Is it really possible to throw a glass ball from that distance? And hit the switch with pinpoint accuracy?
Yeah! That obviously ain't possible.
It may be difficult, but it's not impossible. No, it actually wouldn't have been all that difficult for the killer, the Super Duper High School. Because the killer is the Super Duper High School All-Star. Isn't that right, Kawada?
You're talking crazy!
Indeed, for one dubbed the Super Duper High School All-Star, a 10-meter target is nothing.
Fuck you! I'm not the culprit! Besides, that launch is completely whacked, you shit-brained chuckle fucks!
You still won't admit it. In that case. Naegi, go back over the incident one more time and explain every little bit of his crime. And with that, let's put an end to this.
I'm telling you, this ain't over yet!
You can say whatever you want, Kawada, but we've solved all the mysteries. And now I'll show you what really happened! Alright, let's go back to where it all started. Last night, the culprit went to the room where Maizono was. In other words, to my room. More than likely, Maizono invited that person to my room in order to kill them. Using the knife she took from the kitchen beforehand, she attacked that person. But something happened that she didn't see coming. That person struck back at her with the practice sword in my room. A strike from the practice sword broke Maizono's right wrist, ending the battle. And then, the knife was stolen from her. Cornered, Maizono panicked and fled into the shower. The culprit went right after her, but for some reason, the shower's door wouldn't open. The door to my shower is misaligned, and not knowing the trick, he was unable to open it. Maizono knew because I told her, but of course the culprit didn't know. Even so, the culprit somehow forced the door open, and then, with a stolen knife, he stabbed Maizono. However, with her last remaining strength, Maizono left behind a dying message. On the wall behind her back, so the culprit wouldn't notice. But in doing so, she expended all of her strength. After murdering Maizono, the culprit hurriedly began destroying the evidence. First, he removed his blood-stained shirt. Then, using my room's lint roller, he cleaned the room from top to bottom to remove any trace of his having visited that room. After that, the culprit headed for the trash room to dispose of his dress shirt. He intended to burn his bloodied shirt in the incinerator there. However, shutters sealed the trash room, and he was unable to approach the incinerator. So the culprit used the glass ball Hagakure left in the laundry room. The culprit pushed the incinerator switch by throwing the glass ball through the shutters. For a normal person, that's practically impossible, but the culprit was confident he could do it. After all, the culprit is the Super Duper High School All-Star. He threw the glass ball with precision and control, hitting the switch and activating the incinerator. The culprit, having destroyed the evidence, was relieved and quickly left the trash room. But the culprit wasn't counting on. Part of his shirt falling out of the incinerator. And so, the culprit remained blissfully unaware that he'd left behind conclusive evidence. You're busted! Isn't that right, Leon Oowada? Apparently, Hagakure forgot the glass ball in the laundry room. When you went to the laundry room to wash the blood off your shirt, Oowada, you found it there. And when you did, you came up with this plan.
What do you say, Oowada? Do you have any objections?
Do I have any objections? Yeah! Yeah, I do! Of course I freaking do! Anyway, it's all just a theory. You ain't got a bit of evidence, do ya? If there ain't no evidence, it's all bullshit. That ain't gonna fly with me.
Then why don't you show him, Naegi, the evidence that he's the culprit? You have that evidence.
I have that evidence?
The culprit did not use something in that room when he removed the screws from the doorknob. Instead, the culprit likely used his own,
He used something of his own to remove the doorknob screws. Could it have been...
Not a freaking chance that's gonna fly with me! You dumbass! 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 Dumbass!
I need to present definite proof to Oowada that he's the culprit.
Where's your proof? Quit fucking around! No freaking way! Wasn't me! Dumbass! Liar! Quit yapping! Shove it! Where's your proof? Quit fucking around! No freaking way! Me? Dumbass! Liar! Quit yapping! Shove it! Where's your proof? Quit fucking around! No freaking way! Wasn't me! If there ain't no evidence, it's all bullshit! Gonna fly!
At the crime scene, the shower's doorknob had its screws removed. But when he removed those screws, what tool did he use?
For removing screws, use a screwdriver.
In that case, there was only one in the tool set we were given, wasn't there, dude?
So he used that. Not like there are any other tools here.
However, there were no signs the toolset in my room had been used.
The culprit thought the crime scene was Maizono's room, and not Naegi's room.
Because only the guys were given tool sets. He didn't think there would be one in that room.
In which case, whose toolset did the culprit use?
Dumbass! Dumbass! Dumbass!
The culprit had to have used his own toolset.
Dumbass! 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 Dumbass!
Oowada, would you please show us your toolset? If my proposition is correct, then there should be evidence of the screwdriver having been used!
Dumbass! Dumbass! Huh?
If you say you used it for something else, then explain to us where and for what.
I'll warn you in advance. Trying to say you lost it won't work either.
Dumb ass. Duh. Dingus.
It seems he has no objections.
And this, I do believe, is the end